Hello, welcome back to Grand Prix Legends. We're here today at something very, very special. We're sitting at the end of the pit lane at the full 37 3/4 mile Isle of Man TT circuit. This circuit was just released for Grand Prix Legends a couple of days ago now by Jim Pearson. And Jim has done an incredible job at recreating this circuit in the sim, something that took him pretty much 15 years to do, and it shows. The amount of craftsmanship and the level of detail that is present here is unlike anything I've seen really before. I want to try to show off this circuit the best I can. It is a really complex, dangerous circuit for anyone familiar with it. It's obviously home to the Isle of Man TT, a really famous motorcycle race that started way back in the early 1900s, I think 1911 actually, or 1909, but really crazy circuit. It is absolutely the only race these days that's like it is. Public roads, little to no safety, motorcycles flying by at 200 miles an hour in some cases, and it has left its mark, you could say, on all of the participants over the years. One of the most deadly races still to this day. I think this past year, unfortunately, somebody also has passed away during the running of it. So very, very dangerous. I think it speaks for itself. And it almost feels a little sacrilegious to have it here with a car, but it's actually a great combination and something that I think in the very early days that did race cars around the circuit, and I think in modern times there's actually been some trial laps in a few different cars. So it's not something completely foreign to it, but very clearly a motorcycle event, but something that we're able to experience here in Grand Prix Legends. So I'm going to throw my car into gear and get rolling, since this is going to be quite a long lap. I think competitive laps in the real TT are just under 20 minutes. I think I want to say something like 18 minutes or so is a competitive lap, maybe 17 minutes. So at a high speed, this is a long circuit, 37 3/4 miles. To put that in perspective, I think the Nordschleife, which is considered a really long track, is around 18, 19 miles. So this is nearly double the length, and something that I think is a little more than double as difficult to learn. So we're coming down here through Prix Hill, which is, I think, one of the most famous parts of the circuit. There's some really good videos from the bottom of this hill where the compression happens on the bikes. But as you can see, just looking around, this is a over 20-year-old game, and this kind of level of detail exists for the full 37 3/4 mile circuit. Individual trees placed everywhere, all the different stonework, and exposed light poles, and everything that you'd expect. It really just feels like you're driving through an English village somewhat, or an Irish village really. It is absolutely incredible, and something that looks spot on in every aspect. There's no laser scanning here, obviously. It's all done just through object placement, and I can't imagine how many hours of tweaking. Jim has done such a great job bringing this track to Grand Prix Legends, and something that is very, very much a treat to learn. So we're going through Braddon Bridge, I believe, here. I'm going to try my best on all the different corner names, or calling out at least where I am roughly. But I don't speak the local language, and so forgive me for any of my pronunciation. Semi-familiar with the circuit from that Isle of Man game that came out a couple years ago with the motorcycles. Really fun to learn the circuit, I think, above everything. Just try to remember all these corners. So we're coming here over the top of Union Mills, I believe, or this maybe is the Union Mills town. We're sitting in fourth gear. We'll get a little gas now. This really straightens out here, and is, I think, one of the fastest sections on the circuit, at least within the tree line here. There's a few distinct parts of the circuit. We're going through what I would call more or less like the village, outskirts type part of the circuit. Later we'll go over the actual mountain, and you'll see we'll get above the tree line, and so you can really kind of get these distinct sections, but boy, do a lot of the corners blend together and look the same. I think this corner here would be flat out, or near flat out, at a race pace. We'll keep it up here. I'm in fifth gear now. We'll go down, I think, going through Glenvine part of the circuit, and winding our way towards the village of Crosby. but really an amazing circuit, and just, I'm going to say it about 100 times during the video, but the attention to how it's been built, it just makes it that much more enjoyable. I haven't yet tried it with AI. Honestly, it's not a circuit where I feel the need to race other cars. I'm really racing myself at this point, trying to make sure I'm staying on the circuit, doing some laps, but not able to make a very clean lap at speed just yet. I wanted to give folks the impression of really what the circuit is and what it's all about. So it works over some of these hills, a lot of blind corners. You really end up having to remember the sharp ones, the ones that you get to and maybe are blind and would lead you off. Keep the throttle down a bit. The track will work its way down here for quite a ways, get very shaded, something where the real circuit will have patches that are wet, the shadows, right? The sun will come out and dry the circuit. They don't race in the rain at this track. It's just way too dangerous as it is, but there still will be damp patches and things that the drivers, the riders really have to watch out for, and it gives you a little bit of an impression. Unbelievably dangerous, just all the walls and everything, posts, and it's really not a nice place to crash. You see some very frightening footage of accidents and things, and it really is a circuit that has claimed a lot of lives over the years. I think almost every year a rider or more are killed. And we'll come brake heavy here. I think this is the Bala Crane. Really cool corner where you'll see the riders on the outside here almost lick the wall on the left there as they're exiting. We'll get that throttle down again. As now we'll head towards what I call the Glen Helen part of the circuit, but it dives way down, gets really covered with shade and trees, and winds its way through here. So the circuit, I mentioned 15 years. I think Jim started this, or at least he says, back in 2005, which is a very long time ago, but at that point Grand Prix Legends had been out for 6-7 years. So getting in there, a lot of the very popular tracks were released around that time. So he started on this full circuit. I think just before that had released kind of an abridged version of the circuit, or around that time, a 15-mile version, which you'll actually find out there quite a bit. It's been converted to a lot of games, and especially motorbike sims. But really, it's an amazing circuit. 15 miles is no slouch. Still larger than the Nordschleife, but it doesn't have the same feel. It's missing a lot of the space that makes this one so special. And so he started the full version and has worked away at it, on and off for those 15 years, and just releasing here in 2019. So it's absolutely amazing feat. I can't begin to thank somebody like that enough for sticking with and building something like this, and coming up here through Glen Helen. Now the circuit will pick up, and we'll get up the hill here. I believe this straightens out up ahead quite a bit to another fast section. Go past the cottage, try not to run wide. Very, very easy to run wide, clip a wall, jump one of the curbs or the hills on the side. I've crashed countless times, even in the couple of days that I've been with the track now. And it's something I thought about, working at this for a couple weeks and getting really fast at it and showing that, and I probably will at some point, but I really wanted to get the word out there about this circuit so that everybody is aware it exists. So I think this is the Concavati Straight. I'm definitely not pronouncing that right, but that's what it looks like to me. Again, just an extremely fast section. Probably already, for those not familiar, just looks like the rest of the circuit, but we'll dive through some of the corners, taking it very slow here. Just want to get through the lap and be able to show the whole circuit without making a fool of myself. But all the trees, if you watch onboard video, I really think he did such a good job with the way the circuit is built, and he said in his own words in the README for the track when it was released that he's modeled it more as the track would have been in the early 2000s, late 90s. A lot of bumps. You can see my car bouncing around. A lot of bumps. Parts of the circuit are changed every year, so this is a little more how it was maybe at its most challenging point before it's been cleaned up a bit, but still such a close representation. I don't know how you do something like this with only photographs. The sims these days are all about laser scanning, and obviously it's a great thing, making sure the circuits are very accurate. So I think we're going through the Barrow now, jumping through there. We'll head towards Douglas Corner and Kirkmichael, which is an awesome part of the circuit. But laser scanning, obviously gives you that exact replica of a circuit, and real drivers will say, that's one of the best parts about things like iRacing these days, is how accurate the circuits are. Is running a little wide, getting up on the curbing, see it sneaks up on you like that, but we'll still be able to continue. Have to pay attention to where I'm going rather than talking. I guess the point I'm getting to is getting something that is this close and accurate and feels so authentic without laser scanning is just beyond impressive, and I hope that comes across just from this video here, and I hope everybody does get out there and tries this out. This is the village of Kirkmichael, something that you would normally go nearly flat out down. Get up to 5th gear, definitely not on the limit here, but just trying to show the circuit. Flick past the gas station there. You try to pick out these landmarks, but so much of the circuit blends together, especially at first. And I found some of the options that Jim has included to be extremely helpful, obviously. So there comes a configuration program, something I've never seen on any other circuit that's been released, where you can turn on things like corner names, so they'll show up as floating graphics as you whiz by. You can turn on things like arrows that'll tell you, hey, this is a 2-corner, very much a rally. This is a 1-corner, and they even have a pace notes version you can click on. There's different weather variants of the circuit, so this obviously is a part of the world that gets quite a bit of rain. So you can turn on, those type of weather effects, and I think there's even weather for different parts of the circuit too, where the mountain section can be foggy, but maybe down here it's a little more partly cloudy. So very, very neat, all those options, really easy to turn on and off, and just shows the level at which this circuit was produced with. So we're coming up here to another really famous part of the circuit. This is Ballow Bridge, at least, again, I think it's pronounced that way. You actually really have to slow down quite a bit for this, as you see big jump there. The car, at the slow speed I'm going, even getting off the ground, you'll see the bikes in real life almost go to a stop there to get over that little bump, and something that definitely need to remember. I'm sure that's a place a lot of people crash at first. Accelerate back through a lot more twisty bits here before we get, I think my next known landmark is the Quarry Bends, so we'll take it pretty easy here. I've done probably 10 laps so far in Grand Prix Legends, but again, I knew the circuit a bit from the TT Isle of Man motorcycle sim that came out. And this is so similar to that. I think Jim called it out that track was definitely built with for that sim with a big budget team. Here we are at the Quarry Bends, big budget team, probably some laser scanning, high resolution photography, things like that, and this matches it and kind of exceeds it in some ways. I think just some of the work that's here is really impressive. So get the pedal to the metal now. We're down one of the straights here, I think the Sulby Straight. This will kink to the right up ahead, and another really heavy braking that you have to remember. If I'm remembering the circuit correctly, I'm waiting for, no, I do have it correct, but I'm waiting for that moment where I think I'm somewhere different than I am. This is another corner, it catches you out, down to first gear for it. We'll take that curb. Driving here in a Cooper T84, I believe. It's F2 car. Don't want something that's, overly powerful. You could definitely take one of the 67 Grand Prix cars out here, but I'm trying to learn and enjoy the circuit. I don't need anything that's, the quickest car, but I was trying some of the 55 cars around here too, which are really fun, but this definitely has a little more handling, is a little more forgiving of a car with the lower power F2 engine. something changing setups for. Jim gives a lot of advice around what kind of setup you should put on a car. I raised the ride height of the car a bunch so I don't bottom out. It's public road, so this isn't a flat track. This isn't your Monza where we're low to the ground, right? This is something where you got to watch out for all those bumps and things. So we'll curve through a few of these. We're looking out now for a green bridge, which will tell us we're at Schoolhouse, and I think we're coming up on that in a minute or so here. This is probably my least familiar section of the circuit, probably the section I know I need to work on the most. So I'm almost getting a little out of control there, getting it slowed down though. And it really is the way you have to learn a circuit like this, is pacing around at my speed, writing notes down. I'm looking at a notebook next to me of different landmarks and corners and what order they come in, so I can cross off my list what's coming up, and calling out those really dangerous spots on the circuit. But then for the rest of it, you obviously can't write down every single corner and follow that easy, so you have to take it easy and figure out the line, get a little faster over time. You can't just go crash in every corner and expect to learn, the whole circuit. And some of the bits that Jim's added in with the arrows, with the naming on the corners, really helps you understand the full circuit. But we can see ahead the bridge coming up for Schoolhouse Corner, and this will be a left-hander. It's actually got a little bit of an extra, probably a parking spot area here on the right side, which you can run a little wide into if you're really pushing it. This will bring us into Parliament Square, and I think where we're at here is about as far north as the circuit actually goes on the island. It's fair to talk about the Isle of Man circuit. Is a mountain course. I think it has a few names, but really traverses a large portion of the island, Isle of Man, which is off the coast of Ireland in England. So it's a huge place, and it's actually amazing that the whole country, the whole island shuts down essentially to bring these races every year within May, and I think they might actually race the circuit at other points in the year as well. But really a cool event, something I'd love to get to someday. As we're coming up now to the Ramsey hairpin, and this is an important landmark. This is kind of the end of what I would call the city section of the circuit. We're going to be working our way uphill now towards the mountain, and you'll see here we'll dip above the tree line in a couple of corners, but this is where the circuit really opens up, and very high-speed section coming up here. A couple more right-handers, and I think we got the gooseneck up ahead. We'll get to pushing it wide. I might have tapped the stone wall. Circuit is very narrow for a car in some places, especially towards the end of the lap. I'll point out a couple of those, but obviously public roads and not built to be a race course. As now we can see, we've left a lot of the trees. We've got these big stone walls on either side of us. So I'm crawling along, but I know the gooseneck's here. Gooseneck, final slow corner, as now we'll open it up in a second gear. Get her all the way up to 5th, I think, as we head up over the mountain. I'll turn my page in my notebook. That's helping me. Very important. Definitely notes are needed. I can't wait to learn more of the course so that I can try some really fast laps at it. Hope enjoyable to see nonetheless, but you can see now the track's very open. I can see extremely far ahead. Can be deceiving though. You definitely still have to be on your game to make the lap through these white curbings, white walls really, with the yellow stripe, very signature of the circuit. You see tons of pictures of the riders leaned over in those corners as I'm running wide. Up on the berm. Wow, I thought my lap was over there. That would not have been good on a motorcycle. Alright, but getting it up to 4th gear, I think we're on the stretch of the course that's called the Mountain Mile. And it's really a series of corners that look all the same to me. It's something that's going to take a while to learn which one's next, which left is this. Got a few tricks here in counting. I know it does 3 rights and the 3rd one is a tight one, or things like that, but it still is a pretty foreign part of the track. It's something that's going to take a lot of laps to learn. I think there's also the ability to start your lap at different sections of the circuit through the configuration utility too. So that's another great way to learn it, is maybe start the car up here and do a lot of runs through this section to remember it. I think doing testing mode, getting around the circuit, is obviously a good way, just kind of putting around and learning all the corners. A little more realistic of a way to learn it, I guess. So we're coming now to this right, with the black hut sign on the left there. I think maybe this is the black hut in front of us. And we'll work our way towards the bungalow, which you'll be able to see actually a couple of train tracks or tram lines cross the circuit. Probably really difficult to deal with on a motorcycle in real life. Up ahead behind the hill in front of us, we'll see that, but that's kind of a signature part of this mountain section. See a lot of footage there, and I think this is the bungalow bridge here we're going over. Right there. We'll sweep to the right here. Is now coming into the bungalow down to third. Gotta make sure you don't run wide here. You see there's a tram on the left, the tracks roll over them right there. Put the throttle back down. Now working towards the end of the mountain section, and there are 4 corners with huts on the outside that are left-handers, and that's how I kind of keep track of this part. So we'll brake pretty hard for this one. We can see the first hut here. We'll get into second gear. Snaking down the hill now, down the mountain really. So coming up, here's the second left-hander with a hut on the outside. We got another hut on the inside. This will be an impressive area to watch the TT from. The bike's really at max speed over the mountain here with the long sight lines. This corner very deceiving, easy to run wide there. To the third of these left-handers. Third of these left-handers, and there'll be one more, which is, I believe, called Keppelgate. It really ends this mountain section, getting towards the end of the circuit. So this is a 37 3/4 mile track, so it's unbelievably long. I think the only longer circuit for Grand Prix Legends is the Targa Florio, the Piccolo di Monole circuit, and that's one I honestly have not learned, and probably something I want to do is now, working through Keppelgate, and you can see in front of us, and this is the tough one, with the Cregmi Ba, I think is how you pronounce it. It's basically a hotel that sits at the end of the straightaway, something you'll see a lot of videos from as well. And we get down to first gear for this right-hander, probably maybe a little bit faster of a corner when we're at speed. But then we'll work down a straightaway here, and to me, this signifies the end of the circuit. So there's still quite a few corners to go, but I think of this part as the end of the track. And we have to watch out for a couple corners specifically. So we'll take this right, which would be flat out, and then there's this left here, which really long corner. Third gear for this lap, but deceptively long corner there. And we'll come up. All of this, and you can tell a lot of it. There's actually a part coming up where you can clearly tell, but it's all made from photographs that Jim took, and I think he took 2 separate trips where he walked the whole circuit snapping photography to use as the actual textures, and obviously to help him plot the layout. I think there was kind of endless tweaking involved in getting the circuit as accurate as it is, and it really shows. As we come up to Signpost Corner, and if you look right ahead, this is an easy place to crash because it looks like the track continues on, but it's actually a photograph of that actual intersection, which is really cool to see. We veer off to the right. We've got another sharp left-hander here, which we don't want to run wide on. And we'll come to what I think of as the last corner, the Governor's Dip. The last few corners. You don't really think of each individual corner. I don't even know how many corners the circuit has on it, but Governor's Dip here, a really tight section of the circuit. The bikes in real life pretty much stop here. Barely lean over, or can barely get around these corners as our car does just fine through there. And we'll throttle it up back on what is the main straightaway, and we'll pass here the start-finish line in the pits on the left side. So that's a full lap with just a couple minor incidents around the Isle of Man TT Mountain course. I hope something that you enjoyed, even slow here, something I'll want to get better at, and you know, post a video showing some actual skills. But just want to give it out there for Jim and producing something like this, and I hope it motivates some folks to try out Grand Prix Legends and give this track a try. All of it's free. You can find Grand Prix Legends online today without having to buy it. I think it's essentially abandonware at this point, or you could buy a copy if you feel the need to. But then go install this circuit and give it a try. Something that's really fun. I know Jim's taking a pretty hard stance towards conversions to other platforms, and I have to agree, this track was made for this sim, and it looks at home in it. So something I'll be having a lot of fun with, trying out tons of different cars and things here. But I hope you enjoyed that as we'll stop over here in Quarter Bridge. Something I really enjoy and hope you do too. But thanks for checking it out, and I'll talk to you again next time.